The Maroon White Pod brought to you by Citylink. For bookings, timetables, updates and any other information, head to citylink.ie. You're welcome along to the Maroon White Pod. Unfortunately, it's disappointment and it has been even hard to organise this podcast and get everything going to talk about it today, because we're all hoping that we'd be talking about Sam Maguire back in the West, but unfortunately it's not. It's up in Armagh, and congratulations to them. Just on that, in the end, Seán, huge disappointment not getting over the line on Sunday.
Yeah, it is. I suppose I'm not saying we built ourselves up, but there was such huge kind of optimism regarding this team and what they've achieved to date. And I suppose we go back to 2 years ago and says Kerry, where after losing that game, we kind of saying, yeah, we didn't have the impact from the bench. Kerry were a better team. We could have, all right, but it didn't happen. So we kind of left Croke Park saying we were beaten by their team. Leaving Croke Park on Sunday last, it was kind of it left a very sour note, kind of, and sour kind of taste in the mouth in the scenario where we could have won it, we should have won it. I still to this day say we were a better team. It just regarding if you look at all what went wrong, and I 100% Park was correct leaving. We did more mistakes in that second half than we did to the whole other games up to that game. So it's a hard one to take, because personally myself, in my career and watching matches to date, that's the one that's going to hurt the most, because we left it behind us, and I don't think Galway will get, I'm not saying an easy All-Ireland, but an easier one to win that we lost. And then that's the hard part, because we know they don't come around easily, because if you think about from 2001 to 22, we were 21 years waiting that time. And now again, in the club, another 21 years. And that's the thing which is hard to take. And now we can sit here and blame A, B, C, and D, but it's just one of those things that happened. And from a person that was a part of a replay and lost in All-Ireland, they are not nice. They do hurt, and they hurt. And we still think about it like, I'm still thinking about 24 years ago against Kerry. So it's there for you for life. It's like a scar that will never go away. So again, it's going to be hard for these guys to go, where there's questions of who will be around next year. And there was even talk, would Park do another year and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of soul searching. And I felt sorry for them yesterday. You see them going up on stage, and I've been there. It's absolutely painful. And they don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. They want to go home. But a part of the scenario where the homecomings are organised for you to win, and you just can't cancel them, and that's it. But fair dues to them. We're proud of them, but it's hard, and there's going to be a lot of soul searching, and there's going to be a lot of an autopsy done on a lot of stuff that went wrong, and players and we can talk about Shea Welch and the amount he missed, but we can't forget too, we wouldn't have been there without the bugger either, and that's the thing about it. We think of that great goal he scored against Westmeath, a bit of magic against Dublin, so we mustn't forget those things too, but it's a hard one. It's the one we left behind, and that's the thing that hurts us most. And talking to everybody there, the same thing, Armagh, we did all the good things. We stopped their full forward line, and we just let them get a soft goal, and we let them actually just miss the scores we should have got, and that's really the ins and out of it.
Barry, like us all, I'm sure you're finding it hard to get over too. How were you feeling? Obviously, like all Galway supporters leaving Croke Park, we were going in with excitement, but probably leaving, you could nearly say, with a bit of depression.
Yeah, it was, as Seán was saying there was that feeling where it was when we really left behind us. Coming away in 2022, it was a really good game. We went at it, and Shane had a dream All-Ireland final, and for 40, 50 minutes against a really good Kerry team, we were right in the mix, and it was enthralling, and it took a huge Kerry and a huge David Clifford performance to get them over the line. But we're coming away on Sunday, and everyone we were chatting to was just absolutely deflated in the fact that, as Rocky said there, and no disrespect to Armagh, fair play to them, but we would be hard pressed to find an All-Ireland that would have taken as little to win. And to borrow, from Kieran McGeeney's phrase book, we have to be very conscious of if we won that game by a point, which could have very easily have happened, everybody's a genius, and because we lost by a point, we're gobshites. That sort of a way. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater completely, and programs like this are designed to look at a game on its individual merits, and absolutely rightly so. But if we look at kind of the macro picture, it's a team that has been in 2 All-Ireland finals in 3 years. They've 3 Connacht championships back to back, you know, maintain their Division 1 status through absolute, you know, their team being torn apart through injury. Pádraig has developed, you know, even if you look from 1 to 7, like Conor Gleeson, our entire full back line, Dylan McHugh, Seán Mulcurrans, John Maher, Cian Darcy, they're all Pádraig Joyce players. And they've done a master job in bringing all of those guys through as well. So, yeah, we look at Sunday on its merits, but let's not forget that they're still a very, very good team, and it takes a very, very good team to get to an All-Ireland final. Unfortunately, it takes a brilliant team to win it. Rocky has 2 of those medals in his back pocket because he was involved with a brilliant team, and that's where the soul searching for the winter will come now. Is where can we find those extra gains that will get us over the line? And there's small little aspects that we need to go and find. First and foremost, the management team will need to sit down and make sure that they have the stomach for going again, because it's a long year getting back to an All-Ireland final. Like, you know, when you think what they have to face into in terms of FBD, League, Connacht Championship, group stages of an All-Ireland, knockout games, and then back to an All-Ireland final, you need to have the stomach for it, and they'll have to sit down and make sure that they have it, and then scour the club championship for players that are going to make a difference to us.
Seán, something you just touched on, the homecoming. You can kind of tell, like, it's obviously very tough coming back. You've only experienced it once on the losing side, but just on that, how tough is that?
It's painful. It's painful because I suppose we had a double whammy because we ended in a draw in 2000, so that's the most anticlimax thing ever. And then to go through it again for another 2 weeks and then to do it, it's a hard soul searching one, because the supporters, and you'll always hear is in the media there for the last day, oh, come on out, we have to support these guys when they lose, no, not only when they win. And going back to my old manager, John O'Mahony, says is we win as a team and we lose as a team, and that's no truer word. But for players, we just didn't want to be there. You go up there, you just want to go home. You want to go home to your kind of go under a rock really more than anything and disappear. But we understand, because I was talking to a good friend of mine, John Coyle, who organised actually the homecoming in June, and it's just a part of the process where the county council and these boys organise it, thinking the best that it's going to be a win. So all that thing is set up. It's not a scenario where they can just flick the switch and that's it and turn off. So there's a bit of both there. For I know the supporters like to kind of welcome home, win or lose, but also I know as players we don't want to be there and the management don't want to be there. But it's part of the process. Like the dinner, the mother of God, the dinner the night before is the worst thing ever. Like, you know what I mean? It's like a last supper. Like, you know, you're just there, you're not even hungry, you're tired, you're wrecked, you just want to go to bed. And so, but it's part of the game. It's the winner takes it all, and that's the famous ABBA song. That's how it is. And I was lucky enough to have it twice, and it's chalk and cheese. But regarding Galway, Paul, it's a thing about it though. It's funny when you're driving down, it takes you 4 hours to go through everything, especially when you go back Connemara. It's another hour and a half west as well. But the thing about it, where I was kind of thinking of his team, what he's done, and Pádraig and management, and you know what, the more you think about it, yes, it's hurtful, but you know, I'm getting a bit more kind of, you know what, there's a lot of good underage players, and we were lucky enough in the league, and we had so many injuries, and there was so many other young players who got a chance in the league and in the FBD who did well and who actually kept us up there in that area. Now, we didn't see many of those in the championship, and that's understandable too, because when it comes down to the bigger games, experience means a lot, and we won, so there wasn't a scenario where you'd have to start changing things at all. So I'd be in a scenario where I'd be still confident, where I'd hope that these guys give a break. They need a break, and it's a killer now. Championship is starting, and they're back with their clubs, so it's another thing. But sometimes that can help, because it also, you're going back to where it all began, and you're going back to your club friends, and you're kind of in there a bit easier. There's less pressure on you in that scenario, where there's a lot of good guys there that I think if they just keep their head down, all the talk now is on Armagh. They've got the big X on their back. We know at Dublin, Kerry, like even I look at Westmeath and Sligo are saying, do you know what, we have a chance this year because we could have beaten Galway. Down are saying the same thing because we should have beaten them. Donegal. So the competition next year is way open than it ever was before. I can't see Dublin coming back to where they were. There's nothing coming through there. Kerry, you know, there's talk of Donaghy going back down to Kerry. That's the big crack. So that's not going to suit Jack O'Connor and those boys. But the thing I see myself is we still have a serious, strong squad there. And there's competition there, which is needed. And I still think there's an All-Ireland in that team. Like, and we look, as Barry well said there, like 3 kind of titles in a row, which hasn't been done in a long time. get to 2 All-Irelands in you might as well say in 3 years, 2 years. It's it's a huge achievement. And to lose to get Kerry where we could have won. And this, I suppose, why we're mentioning Armagh is that we should have won it. And that's the killer. And you can't keep, no point, and I don't know if you heard it, Barry, but a lot of people coming out of Croke Park were saying, and it's a funny comment, like, we did a Mayo on it. And that's what we did. Is how many times you've heard Mayo, we did a Mayo on it, where we're now saying we should have won, and all this stuff. And they've been saying it for the last 100 years, they should have won. And that's the problem. So we've done a Mayo on it, and we need to correct that. And I think that's where the snare, but I think we're not like Mayo and the snare. We do have the players. Do we need a bit of a shuffle here and there? Yes, we do. Sometimes regarding that, if you keep the same thing going all the time, you do need a new voice or a new something. So, but then that's not my area of sort that out. But it's something I would be still, for the supporters out there at Galway, it's still marooned. It's still rosy. It's still out there. I wouldn't be kind of saying this is an old team, this is a team, but we do need kind of a bit more kind of an injection. We need something there, but it's hard to lose 2 All-Ireland finals and go back to the well. And we look at players like Liam Silk, who, with his own position as a doctor, it's not going to be easy for him. A few of the players there, as we mentioned, they're not on the right side of the county player age gap, you might say like that. To me, the average age of a county player is 27, 28. Anything past that, you're on the graph is going down. But I'd be confident. I still would be confident. It's going to be hard. As we said, it's not the first one we lost, and it won't be the last. And we saw it start there. We're joint joint third now at Mayo, and the loss is the 15. So you know what I mean, that's hurtful too. But to your supporters out there, is I'd keep the faith. As Jono said, keep the faith. And I think, you know what I mean, I still would be very confident with this team if we can breed a few and blood a few more players in. Then I think we have enough to actually be around there again next year. Like we're still a top 6 team. We know that. So it's just a bit of luck after that, like, and which we didn't get. We did not get a rub. Losing Rob that early with kind of the injury was a big hit. I don't think no one expected. But county teams today prepare for this. Like I remember talking to Jim Gavin there about 2-3 years ago, and he was saying what they used to do in A versus B games. So he just pull a player out. So they end up with 15 versus 12 in A versus B games, you know, and it's just to prepare for like the keeper getting injured, taking him off, and no one else to go in because you've already used. So that's what happens in the county game today. It's so overanalyzed. It's so regarding the tactics, the systems, and everything that it's funny that you've seen that there seems soulless the players anymore, the county players. That's the problem and that's what happened. And we mentioned earlier before we came online that why didn't they try something different? They're not allowed. I think that's the problem. They're not allowed. And we look at Armagh there going back a few games where there was a free kick. Was it Charlie Ogue, I think, Barry, and looking to the sideline. What do you want me to do? You know, and Jesus, and that was never done in our time, Barry. It was, you mean, you were given self-expression. You did what you thought was right. No, if it was wrong, you were told it was effing wrong quickly enough by the management and your colleagues around you. But if it was right, that was it. You mean you were never had to worry about that. And I suppose that's how bad the game is done and it's gone. It's like professional soccer and the Premiership. You're now like a robot. You're programmed to do something. And if you don't do it, there's someone else there going to be programmed to do it for you.
Just on this, Barry, because I was trying to think over the last few days, what are the positives coming from 24? I know we're talking at the start of the year in the league and there was injuries and everything, and it was hard to see us get here. Is that a positive somewhat days on that, like at the start of the year, if you told someone that Galway we're going to be in the All-Ireland final, it would have come as a surprise to a few people?
Yeah, just briefly touch on 2 things that Rocky mentioned is first of all, if I looked to the sideline when I was about to take a free, I would have been told to go away from it, was the message that would have been coming in for me. And secondly, he touched on the club championship, and I think this is really important. And I go back to Seán's era, and he, you know, when I was playing myself, and that successful Galway team, like Seán O'Donnell or Seán O'Dwyer were always man of the match for Carrow. Paul Clancy was always thereabouts man of the match for Cullinane, Savo, Pádraig. Go back another year or two, Shea Welch was always man of the match for Glenamaddy. Excuse me. I think the message Pádraig has, like Paul Conroy does it for St. James's day in, day out, no doubt. I think the message has to come from Pádraig that a lot of the panel now, when it comes to club championship, have to go stand up and be counted. Because unless you are dominating club games, think what Joe Bergen did for Mountbellew for 10 or 12 years. Unless you're dominating club games, you're not going to go out and perform at inter-county level. No matter how well you play in Pearse Stadium, in training and drills and A versus Bs, go and perform in your club. And I think, go back to Brian Cody, that was the parting message that he always left. Winning All-Ireland, losing All-Ireland, was you go and you perform for your clubs. And I think that's a message the Pádraig should get across. Second of all, the positives, loads of them. Absolutely loads of positives. First and foremost, we got to an All-Ireland final. And as I said at the start, that's a massive achievement. And, you know, we got to one in 22. We hadn't been in one before that since 2001. And there was a reason for that, is because we weren't good enough. And Pádraig has now gone and developed a style of playing, a system and a group of players that has got us to that level. And as I said, now they need to develop. But that's a massive positive. Second of all, we mentioned players. Like, we know Damien didn't have the influence on Sunday. Like, who would have thought that Galway would be in an All-Ireland final without Seán Kelly? Realistically, I know they played, and this is no disrespect to the lads, but I know they played parts. But Seán Kelly was basically injured for the year. Damien Comer was basically injured for the year.
Yeah, you can tell they were struggling.
Yeah, you know, Shane never hit the heights of excellence that we have seen him hit before. But I thought he still played very, very well. And we got to an All-Ireland final on the back of the likes of Cian D'Arcy, John Maher, Johnny McGrath, Dylan McHugh. We're now building a team that isn't revolved around the marquee players. That's a massive positive. So, you know, while, as I said, we're absolutely devastated on Sunday, looking at the bigger picture, there's an awful lot of positives out there. And they're to be grasped and they're to be worked on. And let's look at, we don't have to do it here, but management will look at little areas that they need to improve on and try and find players that they think can help them. We know we need probably maybe a more creative centre forward. You know, Paul Conroy is excellent the last day, 3 points from play. What service? You know, will he be there next year? You know, probably need another inside forward. So there's lots and lots of bits that we need to work on, but lots and lots of positives.
Just on this, Seán was obviously touching there on the homecoming and how difficult it is for players. But I know like a lot of club managers are going to be looking for a couple of these players to come back in over the next few weeks. But how difficult do you think the next few days will be for the players?
Next few days won't be too bad because they'll be in their own little bubble. They'll be, you know, they'll find whether some of them might go racing or they'll find, you know, some establishment that'll host them and they'll have a bit of crack and they'll all be together, and that's where they want to be. It's when they leave that bubble and everyone departs and they go back to their clubs, and yeah, they train on Tuesday, Thursday, but the Wednesday and the weekends they'll do a lot of thinking. And you know, it's in those downtimes that I would imagine a lot of the kind of negative thoughts take place, and that's why it's so important for club setups that they're as professional as they possibly can, their standards are as high as they possibly can, but that they also, there's a bit of fun in it, because inter-county football at the level that they're playing at is extremely serious. Yeah, they've loads of crack, you know, after games and all that sort of stuff, but like, it's intense, so they need to go back to their clubs and enjoy it, train hard, be as competitive as they possibly can and ambitious as they possibly can, but have a bit of fun over the next 6 months.
Seán, just something that I feel is really important to address here is there's been a couple of players that have been singled out with abuse on Twitter after this game, and I just think it's absolutely disgusting.
It is, Paul, and it's disgusting, but this is probably the year that we're in, because I suppose all players are now on social media regarding one thing or another thing, be it selling a product or talking about themselves, and it's a double-sided sword where if you're putting yourself out there, you're going to get caught, and that's it. Like, and it's totally wrong, because, and I've mentioned this many a time, is people keep forgetting, but of all the 80-something thousand that was in Croke Park the last day, it was those 30 players on the pitch that weren't getting a cent. And that's the problem we keep forgetting is about it. Like in Barry, my time, maybe you were a bit later on. The only thing we ever had to worry about was the Connacht Tribune. That was the thing where if you had a bad game, you kind of rushed to get the Connacht Tribune. If you weren't mentioned, you were like, great, that's it, I'm sorted, like that. And so it's sad in the scenario where it's out there. And you have to take it, because if you're there thinking that you're not there to be, I suppose, and we do it ourselves. You know what I mean? On here, you can say what we're talking about, and sometimes we have nothing good to say about a player, but that's it. And that's, I suppose, as analysis, you have to do that. You can't just say, he did his best and that's it, because that's okay for the parents and the family to say that, like, kind of way. But it's a hard game, but they know. And and letting I suppose the public there out know it. They know more than anybody they didn't have a good game. And Barry will agree with myself there is when you didn't play well, if you lose a game, it hurts more you, because you know what I mean, you feel the pain, you feel the pressure on your shoulders, where like those guys, all of them, trust me, they do not, like, they'll go for a few beers here, they'll probably go out to the races, and people saying, oh look, it doesn't hurt. It does hurt. It doesn't make a difference. And they've been told to go out and enjoy, because they've been in a cocoon for at least 3-4 months without any break, without any rest, a game every 2 weeks, under the scrutiny of everybody around us. And that's the problem we are. But it's disgusting and it shouldn't happen. But it is happening and it will always happen. And that's the problem, like with this world we live in and what we do. And that's the problem. We love hearing good things about ourselves, but we must expect the negatives as well if you're out there. And that's the problem with it.
That's it, Barry. As Sean mentioned off air, a couple of these players are being singled out, but I think supporters need to realise we wouldn't have got here without some of these players that have put in the performances throughout the year.
Yeah, Jim Carney was the Twitter of as you said, Rocky, Hume Hurl of the Connacht Tribune. It was they were looking for the report and the ratings, but yeah, and in fairness, we'll jump on here and people will jump on various different podcasts and platforms, but at least we're putting a face to our comments, and that's kind of I suppose the crux of things is that when people throw up and there's no throw up comments and there's absolutely no accountability for that. And now look, because I suppose there's the emotion of it as well. People are so disappointed, they're looking for someone to blame. And if you're a high-profile player, you're going to probably be in the eye of the storm that little bit more. But I would imagine they talk about that, and I would imagine, they have a performance analysis that doesn't just look at, or a sports psychologist that doesn't just look at what you do in the lead up to the game. It's about how you deal with all that sort of stuff after the game as well. So they're well used to it. It's not really nice. I feel sorry for the players, but I don't think it bothers them. It's water off a duck's back. But it's the families. It's mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, partners, families. And when they read this stuff, that hurts them, because they know how much that individual has invested in this and the time and the effort that they've put into it, and that's when it hurts. And it's the families that all of this really hurts, because they know that their own sons, that they're hurting now. Look, like I can't stop thinking about the Finnertys, like when they saw Rob coming off after 8 minutes, knowing that his dreams are absolutely shattered. Like, that's gut-wrenching for them. And as I said, people just need to be conscious of that players probably don't listen to this, but they'll have a brother, a sister, a mum, a dad, that do listen to that sort of stuff. So just be conscious of it.
Yeah, it was devastating for Rob to lose him that early in the game. Just on this, like, we've obviously touched on, I suppose, the outside stuff, but on the game itself, 13 shots converted out of 25. Sean, that's where it feels like obviously we left behind it when we created all the chances, but the one thing we didn't do was convert them.
It was, and I suppose if you're looking at if Paul Conroy or Darcy missed a few of those, you'd be saying, you know what, they were 45, 50 meters out, you expect that. But it's the free kicks, the ones in front of the no, fairness, Armagh, Turbot missed a few himself, like who wouldn't miss them like that. But they're the ones I suppose that hurt the most. Like Rob, as you spoke earlier about, we lost. He popped one over. He got injured, and Shea, then the poor guy, took over the mantle. Like, and it's just the percentage back wasn't good enough. And they're ones, like I'm saying, is we expect that player to put them over with his eyes closed, asleep, and that was a hurtful thing. And the first one, we talk about nerves and we talk about that. He's been there before. He's been there on the big day. He's been there with his new club, Crokes, you see. And this is where it kind of comes down to regarding, I didn't expect him to miss them. And I was there down the side of the hill doing commentary that side. And I was kind of like, geez, he's going to pop that one handy. And then, especially the biggest sin you could do is, they'll always say, is into the keeper's hands, but not even bounce before the keeper into his hands. And he did that twice. And we always say recalibrate, the kind of way, change something around. It didn't happen now. And that was a hurtful one, because I think Armagh went down again, and that would have brought us back to level, and they went down and brought a 2-point deficit again. So hindsight, he's human. He's not the first to miss there. He won't be the last. We've seen great free takers, and Dean Rock and these guys have missed him as well over the years. So Seán O'Shea, we saw him as well for Kerry, and David Clifford, he was missing them as well. Like, so we mustn't forget that too. But us as supporters, analysis, what we do is we pick those out, because we see those as where Armagh missed a few themselves, but not as much. And in All-Ireland finals, you must take the opportunities. You cannot miss them at all. Like, and he would have been training going back the long time. Like, he just wasn't handed that football and say, listen, Rob's gone, you do it. He would have been taking them from the ground and from his hands through the whole season, training after and before, up with Dublin. So it's a hard one to take. Do I blame him? No, I don't. Because, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, we wouldn't have been there without Shea and that great goal against Westmeath and the performance against Dublin. So we mustn't forget, to get to here, you had to win games going back. But it's hard for him, who showed an unbelievable performance in 22 against Kerry. Like, I mean, it was a shootout between himself and David Clifford. And then to see this, where you're kind of saying, I didn't see that coming. And when you saw Damien Comer the same way inside. So it's hard. It is hard. To me, that's where we lost the game. I don't see, regarding other areas where we lost the game, the goal was hard. Keepers are always told, take out the man, take out the ball. That's what they were told. I tell you, if Mac was there, or Pat Comer, or any of those, and they would have taken him out. Goal or not, he wouldn't have got in that easy. But that's what happens. And so we can't change the past, but we can change the future. And that's what it's all about. So maybe we do need more free takers. That it was all reliant on Shea when Rob left, and maybe Matthew shouldn't be given a chance, or someone like that. So listen, Paul Conroy can take them too. I see him taking them for St. James's, but they wouldn't have been taking them in training. So it's something maybe to look at in the future.
On that, Barry, obviously Shea missed two frees in the first half, one out of the tight angle and then one just outside the D. It was disappointing, I suppose, to miss them, and it's hugely disappointing for Shane. But obviously, when you have two frees like that, and it was so cagey in the first half, it would have been huge to win with an advantage at the break like that.
Yeah, it would, yeah, absolutely. The one off the left, I think, his first free after Rob went off, that was a long way out. I personally always think Shane, although gifted off both feet, I think he's better with his right. And I was surprised that he went with his left on that one, considering the distance, and it looked like he forced it a little bit. The one out under the Cusick stand and the 21, they're that's a difficult free. There's probably only a handful of footballers in the country that are going to score them. So I give him a free shot at those ones. And it would have been great if we went in 2 points up and all of that sort of stuff. But don't pin it all. I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying don't as a public, or as a panel, or whoever is talking about, don't pin it all on that. We might have gone in 2 points up if we injected a little bit more pace into the game. I felt we were just a little bit one-dimensional overall, and Armagh got their scores that little bit easier
Psychologically, the way we were playing, holding on to the ball for so long, and if you don't get it, score off it, it's so draining.
Yeah, 100%. Like some of the turnovers, once or twice we had turnovers and we tried to inject pace, and the hand pass, there's one or two sticking out in my head. The hand pass, the first hand pass, the person who went to had to kind of slow a little bit and break their stride, and it kind of just slowed momentum. So like if we got that first hand pass off to the guy coming full tilt out in front of him, away we go. Who knows what would have transpired? So although there's a focus on those little points, and rightly so, and Shane will be disappointed with himself, you know, there's also other aspects of it that meant that's the reason we didn't go in 2 points down. Now, in saying that, Armagh were ultra defensive. At times we were looking, they not only had one sweeper in front of our full forward line, like they kind of, you know, they weren't overly occupied maybe with Seán Mulkerns. That felt that he probably didn't have a scoring threat. So they kind of left him out wide on his own, and they got a sweeper. Two guys at times, it was Rian O'Neill and Mackay, the fullback, kind of sitting on that intersection between D and the 21, just sitting there covering that ball. So it was very difficult, but I felt that, although the frees were important, there was other aspects of the game that if we'd improved, we might still have gone in 2 points up.
Do you think Damien's point was actually over?
Well, Hawkeye says it wasn't. So
Because I was just looking at the video
I
back.
saw that video too from the
Yeah.
Hogan. Yeah, it's strange. Like you don't know, it goes straight over. I saw that myself. It's funny. I actually thought from the angle I had actually from there, it was close, but Hawkeye put it at no. But you look at another angle. But again, I suppose it depends on the angle. But too late now anyway, that's for sure.
I think he would have. I think Rocky, if it was over,
He would have done a bit more celebration.
He would have gone on absolutely. He'd have gone ape if.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, I agree with that too.
If
Yeah,
he felt it was over and it was called wide, like he would have hit the roof.
it wouldn't be the first time. But going with what you're saying there, Barry, 100% correct. Like Armagh have an ugly defensive system through McGeeney. And that's what they go on. That's their basis there, is not letting goals. And sure enough, Blaine Hughes didn't have to do anything regarding even look like trying to save. The only two things he had to do was catch those two free kicks that Shea Welch kicked into his hands. It's their system. It's ugly, it goes, but our style of football is draining on the players because, and even the first 10 minutes, we went long, which we tried against Donegal, which was very fruitful for us, that we actually kind of cut out kind of that area. So we were straight on the attack. Armagh kind of cut that out. We tried one or two. We didn't win it. So we went short. It's a long way up Crow Park from your own 13, 21, building it up, getting to the 45, going back and fro then for about 2 or 3 minutes, where the Armagh just set up camp. They're like the old wagons and the Indians. They set up camp there and just let you just work hard, work hard, work hard. And that's where we were, I'm not saying lucky, is that we're very successful in. Paul Conroy was absolutely outstanding. Cian Darcy was outstanding with the long range shooting. John Maher was just, to me, I still give him man of the match. The work rate that man put in the first half was just outstanding. When things were kind of needed a bit of an injection, he was there. And again, I always call him the player that gets the least, I suppose, coverage. He should get more because he's outstanding. I thought he's been outstanding this year for a person that came in raw this year. He just grew with stature, grew with confidence as the year went on. And hopefully they named him in the Sunday game All-Star. I hope he gets it because he deserves it. And I even put up there, if we'd won, would maybe Player of the Year because he was outstanding.
Yeah, on that, Barry, there was one play in the first half where John Maher wins the ball. He gets it to Cian Darcy. It was probably our best play really in the first half when Cian Darcy finishes that point.
Yeah, both players had massive games. Cian Darcy, 3 points from play, outstanding contribution. John Maher, and both fellas, like I would have worked with both of them at under 21, and you could see at the time, like athletically, physically, they had everything. They were brilliant, but they've developed their game enormously. They're now top footballers up there as midfielders with the likes of Brian Fenton and these guys who just look so comfortable going forward, so comfortable defending. Their work rate is through the roof, and that one stands out because there was energy in it. And if you look at the first couple of minutes of the game, yeah, we held the ball for the first 2 minutes, but then when we got the scores, We got the turnover from the kick out. Rob hit the free. Those couple of minutes, there was massive energy and brought the crowd with them. But it just the worst thing that can happen in a game happened, and it was 5 or 6 really bad wides, and even Armagh were guilty of it. Galway were guilty of it. Damien had a wide. Turbott's free. Shane's free. And that always kind of sucks the energy out of a game. And then it got going again. And, for the first 7 or 8 minutes of the second half, it was really entertaining. Galway looked like their dander was up. They were really going for it. And again, I don't know what happened that they went back to a little bit more conservative and the energy drained out of it again. And that suited Armagh because they knew that if Galway's play was a little bit lethargic, they could get those 15 bodies behind the ball, and Galway would struggle to get through any quality ball to Damien where they would get joy. So, as I said, we can focus loads on the small individual mistakes, but I think overall, Pádraig will be disappointed in that, and he has spoken, about the hurt that'll be there, in relation to the conversion rate, but also for an All-Ireland final that they didn't go 100%, for the full game. Well, it didn't feel like they did. I'm sure they did, but it didn't feel like they did, in terms of energy wise, and that's where I'll be disappointed for.
Seán, it's a credit to Mayor and Darcy because they haven't been part of this panel for all 5 years. Mayor was originally brought in 2020, was let go then, and was brought back in last year. And even with Darcy, he was kind of in and out. But the two of them this year have been monumental.
Listen, and don't forget, Darcy wouldn't have started wasn't for Sean Kelly being out injured, who was another loss. But I just love seeing players when they just grab the opportunity. Like Darcy that time, who said he wasn't supposed to start at all. He grabbed the opportunity around a serious, when you think of Grimley and Creeley, like absolute 2 top-notch midfielders for Armagh who've shown the way through the whole season. But and it's just the way they kind of stamp their own authority on the match. They use their fitness, they use their strength and their scoring ability. And you said that again, Barry, go back to that play. You said correct. When Maher broke the ball down on the 13 all the way up, kept with we can do that more, but we seem to kind of get Armagh on the back foot. But I think when we were given the kickouts, we were slowly starting coming up, and that it suited Armagh. They set up their defence. But when we ran at them, we opened them easier. But then I found then when we scored that they ran straight down the field, mostly up on the right wing there under the Cusack in the first half, and knew the way. And Oisin then got in there nice twice there, handy. And I suppose we worked so hard to get our scores, and we'd give them a soft 1 or 2 like that. And I suppose, again, Pádraig would have noticed that, and with their stats would have known. And they did tidy it up in the second half. But the goal was the killer. The goal was the killer because all of a sudden, the Orange Army wave, you could feel Croke Park. It was like they did outnumber. I personally outnumbered us about 2-1 there, which is kind of, again, maybe it was the colour, but they did. You just gave them that injection that they needed, and you could see the players, then the Armagh players, because we were down there, and especially the corner, they were the subs. They were kind of rising the supporters to lift the supporters, stuff like that. So they knew how to play the game, and that's how they did, and they used it to their advantage, and it worked.
Do you think 6-6 was fair, Seán, at halftime?
It was for the game. It was like, from a neutral, I was saying it was a rotten game to watch. You know what I mean? It's one of the lowest games from how many years? So it wasn't a classic. Us, because I suppose as supporters, we're watching our game and watching thing. But if you're sitting back there as a neutral, it wasn't. The last 10 minutes was exciting because it was tit for tat and the misses and hitting the post, stuff like that. But it wasn't a classic. And I suppose that's not the problem with I don't think we'll ever get a shootout like Galway Kerry in 22, because I think the problem with it now is there's so much on the line that no manager can go out there and say, go for it. They're so set up, it's so tactically, and that's why we're looking at the free kicks. And what happened is that you can't afford to let go of the game and control. And that's what's happened. It was just, they don't want to give away any inches. Don't talk about millimeters. So it's all about keep possession. And I suppose, and we mentioned it earlier, where nobody's going to kick, I won't even call it a 50-50 ball, a high ball into the square to the likes of Damien Comer, because that's giving away possession in their eyes. But to me, it's an opportunity where, especially with, like I think I only counted 2 marks in the game. Now maybe I'm wrong, but usually I thought it's something with Damien. He's very good under a high ball. It's some way of breaking that defence, and that's why they brought the mark in. You know, a quick ball, high ball in to use it. And Armagh actually used it in the last 5 minutes themselves. They kicked a high ball in. I think it was at Brimley or Creeley was there, and he caught one and he got a good score. So it's kind of something maybe we have to look at in the future to use advantage of what frees are available. If that continues on, we don't know. But I thought it was something that we didn't use our full, I suppose, what was available to us to win this game. That we kept with plan A. Plan A didn't go working, but we went back to plan A again. And that's the problem. We don't have a mix. And you see the likes of Damien Comer, who nobody can say that isn't one of the most talented players that we've ever produced. Unbelievable. Being poor guy, being crippled with injuries. And I suppose that's his downfall. He's never got a good season in the last couple of years to say that he let it go. So we go back to I think it was the Derry game there in 22 where he opened up Croke Park by himself. And it's sad because when you see him coming off the pitch, you can see him deflated. And it wasn't kind of just ball wasn't going into him. You know what I mean? He was man marked, double man marked. He was anytime he had a chance getting the ball, was in the corner. There was no danger. So that's the way it goes. Like, but it's hurting still. It's funny about the more we talk about it, the more deflated I'm feeling. Like, sore.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone's feeling. Is there not a disappointment, but do you think there'd be maybe a regret, Barry? We go 3-1 ahead, and you're kind of hoping first to push on. But I think the big one is when we're 8-6 ahead. That's when you're kind of looking for Galway to push on after that, and then I think by the 40th minute, Armagh have the game back level.
Yeah, like as I said, we started that second half at 100 miles an hour and showed brilliant quality and got some great scores. And Shane got an absolutely outstanding score, and we looked by far the better team. And as I said, we just then the wider two when we went back into our shells, and that was the point where we could have put the squeeze on Armagh, because Armagh just to touch on Armagh, so they deserve absolutely huge credit as well, because like if we look back at the 2022 quarterfinal and the game last Sunday and both starting 15s, I think Armagh had 9 new players, if not 10 starting on Sunday that they didn't have in 2022. Now, that's a phenomenal achievement by Kieran McGeeney on the back of these players not having played a minor or under 20 minor or under 20 All-Irelands. And, Cian Darcy and John Maher, we were rightly bigging them up as brilliant performers, but both played in All-Ireland under 21 final. So they have quality and they have pedigree. Kieran McGeeney worked on these guys who haven't played in minor or 20 finals, and they've now gone and won an All-Ireland. So absolutely huge credit to him. But my point on that is that these guys aren't as experienced as most of the Galway footballers. So I think at the time when we went to 8-6, we had our foot on their throat. We were really on top. We could have squeezed a little bit more, and they got a couple of kickouts away. I'd say that the Galway won't be too happy with.
Is that a regret? Is that a regret that we didn't do the press? Because even towards the end, we were just winning everything, but there was stages. Obviously, Armagh got their kickouts off easier, and we sat back.
Yeah, that to me, and like if Pádraig was on here, he'd say, "Well, what do I know about it?" And like I haven't managed at that level, coached at that level, so it's very just my opinion. When you're on top like that, I think that's the time to squeeze. Like I don't think like it's a bit, to me, it's a bit late squeezing when you're a point down or 2 points down and you're trying to get, like, if you're at 8-6 up with momentum behind you, that for me is the time you go after it. And I just felt that, as I said, we for the first 10 minutes of the first half, or first 7 or 8 minutes of the second half, we went after it, and then we just dropped off. And I personally would have felt that was a disappointment, and I would imagine that they will feel that was a massive opportunity missed as well.
Because with that, Sean, they caused us huge problems in Sligo on the short, so it was sort of kind of confusing to understand why we just wouldn't go after it.
Agree, Paul. I suppose it's horses for courses, and that's what you have to look at. We would expect it to beat Sligo. Simple as that. Like, I mean, I think Park said himself years ago, beat them with a phone call. But they didn't. And I think that's because maybe the London trip, London being London, it's a celebration. It's going over there. It's a barbecue. You do take it seriously. The whole idea, they put up a big score. Sligo were waiting for us. Good management team. They know what the McEntees, he knows what he's at. We just got over the line. And then Mayo, we just got over the line. It was a miracle kick by Conor Gleeson, last kick of the game. It shows you the level of Mayo. They weren't really up there, and we still just took playing. It was only then we came into the kind of the latter group stages that we, again, the same scenario. We had a bad Derry team. We drew it. It was a piece of class act by Shea Welch with the chip up and the goal. We could have been beaten in Mullingar. And it was only really the Donegal. And if we look at the Donegal game, we were probably we were only the better team in the last 5-10 minutes. Where Donegal, the semi-final and the experience show where they couldn't miss up to about 60 minutes, and all of a sudden they couldn't score, and they were getting nervous. And it was us in the final the last 5-10 minutes. But on the management side, and it's just it's correct. We went long in the first 10-15 minutes. It didn't work. We went short. Again, that would have been Kieran McGeeney saying, yep, that's what I want them to do. Start from the back, gives us a chance to break up. And then the last 10 minutes was, it's a hard one for being there and what goes on in that scenario. It's a panic station to a certain degree. I won't say it's control panic. And the one to me, I think, you remember that too, Barry, was, I think it was Liam Silk. We thought he should have taken the kick. He turned around and gave it back. And hindsight, Paul's kick was never on. I think Shea was behind him. Like, he was going into a bottleneck of 4 players. But we got to think, this is 76 minutes of an All-Ireland final. Hot day, tempos. Absolutely, you know what I mean? You're going on empty for maybe the last 5 minutes where, and I'll always say that's when you win and lose games. And that's when we lost the game, because you do mistakes. Your brain isn't working as it should be because you're drained and there's so much going on. There's panic stations, and there's players there that want the ball to be the hero, but there's players there that are saying, you know what? I don't want to have this on my conscience if I kick it wide. And it's one out there, and it's a conscious. You only get maybe 100th of a second to think about, do I go for it or don't I go for it? And there's only so many players who will actually say, give me the ball, I want it. You know, and they're out there, but there's also players there that don't want to take that opportunity. And I'm not saying that Liam Silk didn't want to take the opportunity, but again, it was a scenario that he thought the better opportunity was to give it to, I think it was maybe, I don't know who was inside him at the time, but that's how it is. But we will rue these misses and the systems, what go on and what happened at the end. But don't forget, Armagh were in control because they were leading. And they were sitting back happy because they will never go on, let's turn the screw, let's try and score a bit more. They didn't need to because they haven't done it all season. They're not going to do it now. And Galway don't do it either. I think we're looking at the Dublin team, the great Dublin teams of 4 or 5 years ago, where when they were bringing on the McMinimans and these guys were coming on, and absolute class. And that was their goal. They were the bomb squad of their time. Is, all right, we're 3 or 4 points up. Let's kill this game off, you know. But we, for the week or 2 weeks, we knew the pairing, and I was one of them. I saw this game going to extra time. There's nothing between those two teams, and we were all right in the end. It was only a point, and it could have gone either way. And we all said that it was going to be a mistake, and the goal was a mistake on our behalf that was going to win. And it's strange. The last time we played Armagh, it was a goal mistake again. When I say mistake, is the concentration levels fell. Was Soup Campbell, was he going for a pass? I still think he was going for the score. I think that's my own personal thing, because it was a no-look pass. I don't think he was passing across to Aaron McKay. I don't think so. I think that's not Soup Campbell. Soup likes the glory. He was going for the score. And you saw before that he kicked one wide. So to me, it was a bit lucky. I think Shea was supposed to be marking up there, and you could see he didn't see it happening. So, and again, these are the mistakes that lose All-Irelands, but also the mistakes that win All-Irelands for the opposition. But they're not going to change the system. We very rarely see a team when they're 1 point up, 2 points up, coming in the injury time, they're going to push up, because it doesn't happen. And we were lucky, because don't forget, when they broke the ball down with us that time, was a Soup that kicked the post, that kind of way, and that could be the game over. But we got one more chance, and it shows you the heart of this Galway team, where a lot of players, I think Conroy was on his knees before that, and they came back again to try one more time. And you listen, we can't nothing but be So proud of them. Like, they died with their boots on to the end, and the mistakes cost it, but they didn't give up, and we got to be proud. I thought even if we went extra time, we'd have enough to beat them, because their bomb squad came on earlier, and I don't think they had a huge influence. I don't think Charlie Og was more about his father and up in the stand and the football and all that stuff. He didn't think he had a huge influence in the game. Soup missed that, and the goal, correct. You know what I mean? They lost Laurie Crugan, they lost Turbot, those guys, and we kept them quiet. These are all-stars and player of the year's players, and we nulled them in the game. So we must give credit to the full back line too, like McGrath and Fitzgerald and the boys. They did an outstanding job there as well, like, and so that's what happens, like.
Yeah, just on Barry, it's an obvious one, but that Aaron McKay goal was ultimately the turning point. Closest we could get back to after that was a point just couldn't get leveled.
Yeah, well, they got a great return from their full back line in general, and have all year. But I think they learned, Jim McGuinness, which surprised me after the Donegal game, said how Galway keeping three up top surprised them, and that they had to change their method of attack and method of trying to get scores. Galway keep three up top or two up top all the time. And I think what what Armagh did was try and expose maybe the lack of legs and kind of, injuries and the long season for Damien, and we didn't have and Rob and Shane, and every single time that Armagh attacked, they were going, and Faulkner got a great score in the first half, McCambridge got scores, and McKay got the goal. So every single time Armagh were going, we're attacking, the Armagh full back line were going, and someone was just dropping back then into Damien. So it really exposed Galway, and it caused them a lot of problems. And you'd have to say, whether he meant it or didn't mean it, was exactly what Armagh needed at the time. And if they didn't get it, Galway probably would have won the game, and it took Galway a while to settle, but they did, and they got the next couple of scores, and everything
There's
looked okay.
just on that, there's one turnover, I can't remember exactly, but we turned them over, and I forget who hand passes it, but it needs to go to hand, and it just strips out to the sideline.
And I mentioned that in the first half, there was a number of those ones.
Yeah, but this is in the second half now when we turned them over.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying,
yeah,
if we bring that into the second half, it happened a number of occasions. There was one to Seán Kelly that was slightly behind his back as well, and he had to kind of break stride. Dublin, the great Dublin team, there was never a mistake on a hand pass. It always went to the fella in full tilt without having to break stride. And I said, we had those opportunities, and like, we did well after the goal to get the next two scores. And as I said, just those small little momentum swings where we had a chance to try and build something at pace our hand passing just let us down slightly, and the execution of it. So they'll be the ones to really disappoint them.
I think too, you see Porrick on the sideline, especially the last 10-15 minutes, he was trying to tell the players to slow down, settle down, start thinking, because maybe a bit of panic stations came in a bit too early. And you can see that. And that's what happens when you're on the ball, a bit of panic and kind of what going on. And I thought Rory Crugan got, because it wasn't long after the goal that Rory Crugan went down injured. And I thought it was going to suit us, because it would take the sting out of the tail out of Armagh, because when they got the goal, they rattled, that kind of way, the heads were up. And then when Rory got injured, then you see all of a sudden, then the steam took out of them there, and there was a lot of kind of minutes. I thought it was a time for us maybe to recalibrate and kind of set up different, which didn't really happen, the kind of way in that scenario where, as you just mentioned something, Barry, there regarding the hand passes weren't as clean, as crisp as we expected to be. And we brought on a few subs at that stage regarding Tomo came on that time as well. And I suppose it's in hindsight, if we'd won the game by a point, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We'd be talking about all the good stuff. And that's why I love sport, because it's so two-sided. You know what I mean? Like that. I mean, like Armagh, they're not mentioning about the injuries or what they missed themselves or Turbot or that. They're just mentioning they won the game and that's it. But A smart move too about Kieran McGeeney too was, I thought, was that by putting Barry McCambridge on Shea Welch, I thought it was a smart move on him, because we all know Shea isn't the best guy getting back, retreating, covering the space, going back. And it was smart though, because he is their main cog back there, and he was able to dictate and still keep the shackles on Shea, but also he was able to dictate back there what needed to be done regarding. You could see him there communicating, moving, all that stuff, and he had a big say in this, even though he wasn't as how would I say, as influential in the other games before that, but he was a leader out there, and that's why they're talking about Player of the Year, like, and where we were looking at Dylan McHugh, who again, outstanding. And listen, don't take the All Ireland word. He had a quieter game. I think that's the probably better word, and that's what happens when you put yourself up there and you play to such a high standard. And us buggers in, we expect you to play there every game. And he did well. I felt so sorry for him with that kick, because people are saying, oh, he should have done it with the inside of the left or inside of the right like that, and should have gone. And I was saying, you know what? He wasn't far off it. Like, it hit the post, from that angle. He was close, and he had the balls, excuse the language, he had the balls to go for it, and fair dues to him, and wouldn't begrudge him for that one anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was just so close when I hit the outside of the post. Even Barry there at the end, just on Killian McDade, obviously, Johnny McGrath gives it to Kieran Malloy. We're looking to kind of create that overlap. And it just probably, Armagh just get the numbers back there, unfortunately.
Yeah, and as Rocky said, 76 minutes into an All-Ireland final, they're drained. Possibly not. Like, Killian was, when he got the hand pass, was going away from goal as well, which didn't help the situation. We were kind of needed someone to be really coming down the barrel of the gun to get a shot off, because once Armagh get you turned going away from goal, they'll swarm you. So, Killian looked out on his feet at that stage. He covered. I'd love to see what his GPS shows. He covered huge amount of ground, given everything. He got a great score to get us back to within a point. And it looked like we might have a chance to equalise it. And as I said, just again, maybe our decision making wasn't 100%. Armagh sensed an opportunity to get a massive turnover, and they did. And that was probably the final act of the game. And c'est la vie. Here we are this morning.
Yeah, it is. It is tough when we're talking about this now. Just before we finish, lads, Barry, for you, what was the biggest positive in 2024?
3 Connacht championships back to back, massive. It's still a very competitive province, and believe me, Mayo and Roscommon, Sligo, Leitrim, they won't have been happy that Galway have done 3 in a row, and they'll be gunning to get that provincial title back. And the emergence of Johnny McGraths, the Johnny Heaney's, the Johnny McGraths, the John Mahers, and the Keane Darcy's, they're massive positives. One player I thought has been really good all year. Now, maybe could have done slightly better for the goal, but I thought Conor Gleeson had an excellent year as well. And for a fella that, maybe in 2022, there was still maybe question marks of who our number one keeper was. No questions now, and you'd hope that he can build on that.
And for you, Seán?
Listen, as Barry said there, to win 3 Connacht titles in a row, and we all know they're not easy, and that's a huge achievement. But Mayo won 5 and all this stuff in Connacht titles. So the way I look at that, I think the Connacht titles mean nothing anymore to Galway, and that's been not derogatory to anyone. The thing about it does, it's a provincial title. That's nice, but we're up at the top table. We need to be in All-Ireland finals, like the Kerrys, like these Dublins, every second year. So to me, to get to a final and to be talking about needing to win, this conversation we're having, we're disappointed we lost because we should have won it. So to me, even though at the final hurl, it was a very successful year. We found players like, and you just mentioned there, like Paul Conroy. I don't know what the hell he's eating or drinking, but he's like Benjamin Button. He's getting better as he's getting older. And I'd hope, because I know there's talk about him retiring, and I hope maybe the pain of this one, because he showed it. And there was queries there in the semi-final that, maybe Crow Park would be too big for him and all this stuff. He proved wrong everybody, and he was outstanding. And as we said there, John Maher, to me, he was my player of the year, outstanding. And to me, it was a very successful year. And Pádraig, and we had a tough year there in the last couple of weeks because of losing the great legend that he was, John O'Mahony. And it wasn't easy for Pádraig and Divo and the boys there. I know that. And I know they use that as well as part of kind of motivating the players and stuff like that. But it's been a great year. And as Galway supporters out there, now we're looking forward to the club championship, right? And as Barry said there, you know what? There's some great footballers out there, great underage footballers there. We have a good under-20s coming through there, lads. And we need about another 4 or 5 young lads to come into this panel to get them a bit of airtime with the FBD League and the league. And I just think, you know what? We're going to be there next year again, the semi-final, and with a bit of luck, you know what? I'd still knock it. I think we can still win another All-Ireland with this group of lads, and I'm hoping, and that's what I'm positive. And that to me is the best thing about this year. We got to a final. Yes, we're hurt, but you know what? We got to a final. We're there. We're one of the big dogs again. Where people forget 2001 to 2022, we weren't even close. And you know, like that.
Yeah.
Like Paul, you were in nappies. I were even born that time. So listen, trust me, we know the bad years. And going back for me, like since '66, you know what? To get into 2 All-Ireland in 3 years, you know what? We're doing good. So don't knock it. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Is John Maher you'd expect now, Barry, that there's going to be probably one Galway player nominated for Footballer of the Year. There'll probably be 2 Armagh, given usually comes from the winners. Do you think John Maher is the player who will be nominated for Footballer of the Year from a Galway perspective?
Oh, Jesus, that's close. Yeah, don't know. Dylan McHugh, John Maher.
I say Dylan McHugh.
Yeah, I'd say it's still probably Dylan. Paul Conroy, outside bet, but I would say if I was to push by Seán O'Donnell's money, I'd probably put a few quid on Dylan McHugh for the nomination from Galway. But I would imagine it'll go to an Armagh, but probably hasn't been an outstanding Armagh footballer this year. So Rian O'Neill might get it, Conor Turwood might get it, but it's very hard to see who's in the mix on that side of it.
Do you expect Seán will have the 5 that were named on the Sunday Game Team of the Year, which was Johnny McGrath, Dylan McHugh, Paul Conroy, John Maher, and Rob Finnerty? Or do you think maybe there's anyone outside of that might break into it?
It's funny. I always respect the Sunday Game boys more than, because what you have now, and every year you'll have, I call it the Troca All-Star, where they'll give some outside county player one because they want to put it in there. There's always going to be 1 or 2 there. Going with Player of the Year, there's only really, to me, it's like, I think Barry McCambridge will get it because he was outstanding. Now, he was quite enough. He was outstanding, really up to the games of there. He's been mentioned a good few times, especially the Northern boys love him anyway. Dylan was shoo-in. If we'd won, Dylan had won it. Simple as that, Player of the Year, because he was absolutely outstanding. And that was the problem. He still had a good game. All right, he was on Oisin Connaughton, who got 2 points, and he got man the match. And we go back to 2 years ago where Sean Kelly was up for Player of the Year, and Sullivan was up for Player of the 2 fullbacks, and Shea Welch and Clifford went crazy, and they didn't get it because of that. So to me, it's Dylan will be mentioned up there as well, like, you know, but Oisin Connaughton will get Young Player of the Year. We know that, like, you know, he'll get that, and I'd say Barry McCambridge will get Player of the Year, but that's on. They're just kind of personal awards, you know, which are very nice, but our lads, we need the Celtic crosses. You know, that's what comes down at the end of the day. The rest of them are lovely. There's a load of them up in Mayo, and they don't stand for anything, you know. So what they really do down here is it's the Celtic crosses we need down this side here, and I've mentioned it a few times here, Paul, and you know, Barry Backman, and we need new heroes. We really do. All those lads we mentioned, I mean, they're the heroes. And Barry mentioned about the championship matches where the young lads, the unders. Listen, the ones in primes and girls and boys, they need to be able to go over and watch championship matches and see the All-Ireland winners playing on their local pitches. And Barry mentioned it earlier about the club lads we had, like Jeff Fallon, you'd put 2 on him. Niall Finnegan, you'd put 2 on him. Kevin, you'd put 5 on them. And they'd still stand out. And maybe the lads we're talking about here today, they don't really stand out. You know, I've seen them on the pitch, you know, that kind of way. Now, again, they're overtrained maybe, and they don't want to get injured in club matches. There's a bit of that where, Jesus Christ, we won the semi-final against Derry, and we had a club championship against Corofin the next week, you know, so shows you times have changed, like, you know. So that wouldn't happen today, but it's you mean, I hope they stay together as a group and lick their wounds, and this will actually blood them more because there's a great bunch of lads. But we do need new heroes. I'm not saying they're not heroes, but we need new All Ireland heroes in this county badly, and it's about time.
Yeah, just before I do finish, a big thank you to the senior footballers and the management team for the year they've given us in 2024. There's obviously going to be huge disappointment, but just for like any supporters, remember where they brought us to this year, and there's no doubt about it. We will be back, and a big thank you to Barry and Seán for coming on this week.
Beautiful, Paul.